Welcome back, everybody, to HemingwayLand.com, where we've got some new property going live this week in northern Nevada, specifically in Washoe County. Of course, this region is home to not only a major chunk of the state's population, but also the biggest little city in the world, Reno, Nevada, and the neighboring Lake Tahoe region. The property we're going to be talking about today sits about 30 minutes north of those two towns in a largely unrestricted subdivision known as Pyramid Lake Ranches, situated in very close proximity to, yes, you guessed it, Pyramid Lake. This one is 10.9 acres. We'll call it 11, priced at $22,000. Learn all about it and more after the intro. So as noted, people, the subject property is located up here in Washoe County, and for the uninitiated, that's this county up here in northwest Nevada, with California bordering to the west and Oregon to the north. Of course, you've got one of the major population centers of the state located up here with the Reno-Tahoe Sparks sort of metropolitan area, population roughly 400,000 out here. Of course, when you got population base like that, it also means that you have access to all the sort of big box stores, fast food restaurants, dining, shopping, nightlife, schools, churches, medical, karate classes, so on and so forth. But it also means that you have even more things to take advantage of than you'd find in your typical mid-sized town. Of course, Reno boasts the second largest casino resort corridor in the state with plenty of gambling, concerts, and shows. But you've also got Tahoe, or more specifically Lake Tahoe, just down here in the southern portion of the county with all its many water-based forms of recreation, as well as resorts and spas. And, of course, the list of potential to-dos in these two places is too long for me to rattle off here, but for anyone who does want to learn more about all the many things to do and see and experience up here, we, as always, have some helpful links on the listing page, which will take you to a lot of the sort of Reno-Tahoe tourism sites that you can explore on your own time. And it should be noted, guys, that the activities up in this part of the state don't begin and end with these two towns. Nay, in fact, if we expand our traveling radius just a bit, we will find some other great attractions like Washoe Lake, situated just down here in the shadows, people, of the Sierra Nevada mountains, and Lake Lahontan just over here outside Silver Springs. And, of course, a video about land in northern Nevada would not be complete if we did not mention the famous Black Rock Desert, home to the annual Burning Man Festival. Not sure if that's your jam, but if it is, the property we'll be discussing today is in relatively close proximity of that site as well. Speaking of the subject property, guys, let's zoom in here on the map and let's talk about exactly where this is. So, as noted earlier, the parcel in question is part of the Pyramid Lake Ranches subdivision, which is roughly this area we're highlighting on the map here. And this is a pretty good sub that was cut up into parcels of no less than 10 acres in size, so the few people who have developed out here do enjoy a good degree of privacy on their land. And, of course, if you purchase this, you can as well. Now, continuing my travel log of northern Nevada, if we zoom back a little bit here, guys, you're going to see this subdivision sits in pretty close proximity of Pyramid Lake, hence the name, which, of course, is a beautiful lake and a very nice feature to have basically in your backyard. It can provide some afternoons of casual boating, casual fishing, general relaxation. Now, it should be noted, and let me get this out of the way here because I know I'm going to get calls and questions about this. Pyramid Lake is controlled by the local Paiute tribe. Pyramid Lake is part of reservation land. The property we're selling today is not, let me say this again, is not on the reservation, nor has it ever been. We do not buy reservation land, not only because we don't want to, but because it is not easy. It involves petitioning the tribe, getting the approval of tribal elders, going to Washington and dealing with the Interior Department and the Bureau of Indian Affairs. It is no doubt years and years of paperwork and hoop jumping if the tribe wanted to sell, which the tribe probably does not. The point is that this has always been private land and it will continue to remain private land. And with that tedious disclaimer out of the way, let's get to some property specifics. So first off, people do want to point out that this roughly 11-acre property is located here along Bonanza at the corner of Bonanza and this unnamed road. Now, if we go to the plat map, you will see that there is no legal north-south road indicated here. That said, this seems like a pretty well-defined road, which gets a decent amount of traffic for the area, and thus, I think it's safe to call the subject property a corner lot. May not have been a corner lot when the plat was first drawn, but it seems to have become one over time. Whatever the case, as we go through the photo gallery, you will see that the road conditions here at the nearby intersection of Rainbow and Bonanza are in decent shape, though, as we always recommend, do take a larger truck or off-road capable vehicle should you elect to head out there, okay? Now, the underground utility box that you see pictured here sits at the corner of Rainbow and Bonanza, which is just a couple hundred feet west of the western boundary of the subject property. That said, as you can see from the developed home sites on the map and in the photo gallery, there's obviously service extending throughout the immediate area, if not the subdivision as a whole. And it should be noted, guys, as we go through the shots of the homes out here, you will notice something that is not visible on Google Maps, and that is this sort of solar farm, which I believe sits just a little bit south of the parcel. Now, of course, it's unlikely you'd be able to get service directly from this entity, but showing it is simply our way of driving home the point that anyone electing to develop the land out here will need to seriously consider alternative forms of energy for bringing power to whatever you elect to build or park on the property. Of course, Nevada Energy is the main power company in this region and most of the regions of Nevada, but based on the photos of the area, they do not seem to have much of a presence anywhere close to the land. Now, one last thing, guys, do want to point out the property boundary markers you see pictured here, which mark the corners of the land. As we are fond of saying in these videos, whenever something like this is present on the property, it always serves as a tremendous benefit to you, the buyer, because it means that you do not have to start out by spending a bunch of money to get the property surveyed and staked immediately after you purchase it. Finally, guys, if we go back to Google Maps, this property sits roughly about 30 minutes north of Reno, and of course that is 30 minutes as the crow flies. Realistically, however, this is more of an hour's drive back and forth between the two. And I'm pointing this out not only in the interest of full disclosure, but for anyone wanting to take a drive out there to look at the land, you're going to need to study a map a little bit before you head out there, because there is no real straight shot out to the property. And just to illustrate this, there's this sort of what we'll call the Nevada route here along the 445 at the western end of Pyramid Lake. And there's the California route, which you can access just here outside of Doyle. The California route is actually the one our photographer took when he went out there. And we've got some photos in the gallery here of sort of what the major landmarks, if you want to call them that, are along that route. Whatever the case, guys, there's roughly about a bajillion mapping apps out there that can help you with this. But at the very least, if you want to try to chart a course out to the property, one way you can do it is by coming up here on the listing page, clicking the GPS coordinates, and that, of course, will bring up this map that we've been showing you. And from here, you can click on directions, which will allow you to enter your home address or wherever you're at, whatever your start point is. And from here, you can get turn-by-turn directions that you can print out and take with you on your drive out to the property. Next up, people, do want to talk about the restrictions or sort of lack thereof that exist in this region. So first off, as always, we address this up here on the listing page. The long and the short of it, however, is that Pyramid Lake Ranch's subdivision has, let's put it up on the screen, no HOA, no annual dues, and no time limits on building. Additionally, guys, the subdivision was created without covenants or restrictions. Of course, just because there are no subdivision restrictions does not mean that the area is completely devoid of zoning. Nay, as we also write here on the listing page, Washoe County has designated this area as GR, General Rural. And if you click this link right here, it'll bring up an excerpt from the Washoe County zoning ordinance, which in theory should help you learn more about the region and what you can do and build out here. Practically speaking, however, people, I have seen fortune cookies that were more detailed. Seriously though, guys, this one I think raises more questions than it answers. Whatever the case, based off a little common sense and the structures we already see built out here, I'd say it's safe to assume single-family residences, mobile and modular homes would be acceptable out here, as well as probably any sort of shipping container built up to code. Now, for anybody with questions about RVing or camping on the land, or if you have questions about minimum square footage because you want to build a tiny home, I would love to tell you that we have answers to those questions as well. I will admit, however, that we had a dickens of a time trying to get anyone in the planning and zoning office on the phone. Whatever the case, when they answer the phone, they are always, people, the best to direct those sorts of questions to. So as always, guys, their phone number is included here as well as on the listing page to better assist you with whatever research you would like to do. So with all that said, people, if you would like to purchase this property, you'll be glad to know that we closed on it through Toyabe Title Company, which means we did receive title insurance and which means that you will be receiving clear and marketable title. So just come up here on the listing page, click the Buy Now button, which will take you to this secure checkout, where we ask for a non-refundable, people, let me say it again, non-refundable $500 earnest money deposit. Now, to be clear, guys, this is not a property that has any financing offered. This is not a property where we're doing monthly payments. This is a property where we expect you to have the entire cash price. So if you do not have the entire cash price, you should not initiate this transaction. For those of you who do, however, here's the way it works. Come down here, give us the name for the deed, name for the contract, your mailing address. Then at the bottom of the page, agree to the terms of service, click Next, and on the very next page, you can enter credit or debit card information to place the $500 deposit. Now, to be clear, guys, this is an expensive property. Really, anything north of $10,000, we encourage our buyers to close through a title company on. Of course, you don't have to do that. Nobody's got a gun to your head. It's up to you. But when you're spending this kind of money, we recommend getting title insurance. And of course, one of the major benefits here for you, the buyer, is that with a title company, you've got a third-party intermediary who is not only handling the conveyance of the property, but also the disbursement of funds, meaning we cannot touch your money until such a time as the property has been deeded into your name. Now, if you're unfamiliar with how that whole process works, you'll be glad to know that on the listing page, we've got this helpful Notes About Purchasing, which goes into a little more detail here. But more helpfully, it links you to some pages on the website which will go into even greater detail about this process. The first page is called How It Works Buying From Us. And if you go here, you can see exactly how this process plays out. Step 1, you place that deposit. Step 2, we're going to draft a contract. You sign it, we sign it. And step 3, the title company will do the rest, albeit slowly and over the period of about a month. And in case you're at all skeptical about placing money before seeing the contract you'll be asked to sign, you'll be glad to know we have a copy of our standard sale purchase agreement right here. You can click that and read through a generic version of what that contract looks like. It's a pretty easy contract, one page for signatures. If you got a lawyer in the family, have them give it a look-see, but it's pretty self-explanatory. Additionally, guys, if you haven't been through the title escrow process before, you're probably going to have a lot of questions about it. You'll be glad to know we have a page on our website entitled Title Escrow Frequently Asked Questions page. So if you click on that, it'll take you to this page where pretty much every conceivable question we have ever gotten from a buyer or will ever get from a buyer is answered here. Questions about benefits, questions about potential drawbacks, timeline, schedule, logistics, so on and so forth. So we encourage you, give that a read. In conclusion, people, very happy to finally be presenting property in this part of Nevada, one I've actually been trying to purchase land in for some time now. And not only because of the proximity to the lake up here, but really the proximity to all the great things that this region has to do and see and experience. And of course, it's always nice when we can offer land in an area like this that doesn't suffer from a lot of the over-regulation that you'll find closer to the more developed regions. Whatever the case, I really like this one, and I hope you guys do as well. Thanks as always for watching, and we will see you in the next video.